After dominating in college, this running back has the skill set to be a league winner. But is he a must draft or just hype? Let's break it down on the next Going for Two scouting report. All right, I'm here with as always, with my co-host, Mr. Ryan Searfoss, and we're here tonight to break down. Of course, the running back I was talking about is Ashton Jeanty. Everybody's, or pretty much everybody's, top guy in the draft this year for fantasy drafts. 5'9", 215-pound running back from Boise State. His 2024 numbers are pretty amazing. 374 attempts for 2,600 yards, which is a 7.0 yards per carry, and 29 touchdowns. Ryan, what did you see when you watched him?
Dude, he as a pure running package, he is absolutely complete. He runs well through the holes for being like he's kind of built like a spark plug, like he's thicker and he plays thick. He gets really skinny and kind of appears behind blockers, which and uses it to like slide through guys, which I think a lot of people haven't talked about. He easily runs through arm tackles. I think his cutbacks are top notch and he makes guys miss, especially in traffic. And the way he navigates inside traffic is just special compared to a lot of that. He has good enough long speed, which we saw game in, game out, where he was breaking 50, 60, 70-yard runs. He pushes piles. I mean, he caught 43 balls his sophomore year. So I know he didn't do a ton of it this year, but it shows that he has that three back potential. A bajillion carries in these last 2 years. So he's a workhorse. He has in 3 years 750 attempts and another 80 catches and hasn't missed games. That's what you want out of a workhorse running back. And while his class is elite at the position, as good at the running back position we've seen, his ability to do everything and not come off the field, it's fantastic. Like there's really nothing, no holes to poke through it. He's as complete of a player that I've scouted in a long time.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like I wrote down some negative stuff just because we have to. But yeah, elite vision is what I saw. Elite contact balance. He
Yep.
did not go down on first contact. Sometimes third, fourth, fifth contact, he still didn't go down. You mentioned his catching ability, his soft hands. Didn't run routes per se, but I think that could be developed. But yeah, he can catch the ball out of the backfield, which of course we love in fantasy football. But yeah, overall, the package was definitely one of the more exciting running backs. And like you mentioned, this is a pretty good class for running backs, and he's still head and shoulders above most of the guys in this draft. So he is easily the top pick in most fantasy drafts, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think like there are negatives. Like I don't know, while he's complete, system's still gonna be matter for him. I want him in an area where he can get a little bit of head of steam going. He does try to balance it, and he doesn't always get to the edge as quickly as he thinks he can. Especially when you saw like when they played higher end opponents like Penn State later in the year. While he had a 100-yard gain, it was up pure volume. Like I would have the competition is one thing, but honestly, everything he showed and against the teams like Oregon, he showed he was able to do it. But there's a couple things nitpicky, but it's nothing that you're gonna really worry about.
Yeah, agreed. I think the only thing I wrote down, and you can probably write this down for pretty much most running backs coming out of college, is pass protection. Those guys just don't do it much in college. They don't need to. So I didn't see a ton of pass protection issues with him, but I did see a few where he read the wrong blitzer and picked up the wrong guy. But that's something that can be coached into the next level, and nothing that can keep him off the field for sure. So that was really the only thing that I saw that was a negative. A little bit shorter frame, a little bit smaller, as far as
That's
stature.
fine.
But that's again nitpicking and trying to find things wrong where and a guy that doesn't have too many negatives for sure.
I remember saw it recently. It was an interview with Derrick Henry when he was in Alabama, and there were complaints about his pass protection. And when they asked him like, "Do you not?" Like, "Why can't you do it?" or "Why do you struggle?" He's like, "I just run the ball. I ran the ball for my team every time." Case in point, right here.
Yeah, 100%.
Like it can be learned. He's physical enough. He can learn it.
Absolutely, I agree. So let's talk about team fit. I don't know if you have an actual team or if there's an offensive scheme that you would like to see him in, or is there any particular place you'd want to see him land?
I mean, Isn't cheating to say anywhere works for him? I want to see. I know they keep Ed Dallas and pops up a lot. I don't want to see that. Like if we're talking the early draft, and I want him to go somewhere where he's not sharing that much. But there's really nowhere he doesn't fit.
Yeah, agreed. There's not really a team that doesn't fit him. There's not really a team that, obviously in fantasy, we don't want him to go to a situation where they already have an incumbent number one. So we're looking for teams that don't already have that. But yeah, there's not too many places that he can go that's gonna hurt his value per se. Like you mentioned, Cowboys is the most popular one. I think you can pretty much put any running back in this class and just say Cowboys as a general statement because they really need a running back. But there are plenty of teams where he would definitely fit. I mean, like the New York Giants.
God, I hope not.
Do
That's
we?
where I don't want him to
Yeah, we
go.
don't love that from a fantasy.
No, no. Free Saquon Barkley, and no, no, please no. It's funny if he makes a pass. If Dallas would pass on him, he could drop a little bit in the draft unless somebody moves up because you have some teams who really don't need running backs. That's the priority there.
Yep, I agree with you. Yeah, I think the Cowboys is obviously the most popular pick. Trying to think if there's any other places that really would be a great fit for him.
Cincinnati at 17 would be really interesting.
Cincinnati's a good one. I think Chase Brown is more of a complementary role. So yeah, I think Jency would fit right in there for sure.
Denver at 20. Obviously, Pittsburgh would run him into the ground. It would be a great fit.
Yeah, it'd be
I mean, Pittsburgh would be the best, would be fantasy wise, would be a gold mine because he'd get 30 to 40 touches
yeah.
every game because that's all they do is just
If he
run and
fell
do
that
dump
far,
off
that,
the running
yeah,
backs.
that would be exciting if he did get that far.
Personally, I'd hate it, but man, it'd be good in fantasy.
Exactly. What up? So give me some player comps here. I know you struggled a little bit trying to find a player comp. Did you come up with a good one?
Yeah, Marshawn Lynch, very similar sizes, runs angry, push through the pile, athletic enough and fast enough to break the big play, shifty, like shiftier than they look, kind of just a complete running back, like a pure, like a rusher. Marshawn was okay on dump offs and stuff, didn't have to do much more. I see a lot of that in Jenny.
Yeah, that's a good comp. My comp I put out on Facebook and Twitter, and I got a lot of hate for it, but I get to explain it a little bit more on the show. And I put down peak D'Angelo Williams. Similar size. I think D'Angelo Williams was 5'9", 211 or 214. So very similar in size. He was also a little bit shifty. And when I say peak, I'm looking at 2008 when he had 1,500 yards and 18 touchdowns in a season where he was in a running back by committee with Jonathan Stewart, who also had 800 yards that season and 10 touchdowns himself. So a split, pretty much split 50-50 backfield, and D'Angelo Williams still had 18 touchdowns and over 1,500 yards. So I see Genty being sort of a peak D'Angelo Williams type. He just seemed to fit that mold for me. I know people hear that name D'Angelo Williams and they don't really think that he was that great of a running back. I just think he played in that committee for so long that he couldn't really show what he could do if he was given the full role, which I hope Genty gets.
The only thing I had with that is D'Angelo was more like speed and a little more explosive type runner than like a banger like Jenny is.
Fair point. Fair point. All right. Well, that wraps up our Ashton Jeanty scouting report. Be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and TikTok or wherever you're watching us. And don't forget to catch the next Going for Two scouting reports.